This shop's one of a kind. We never know what might turn up. Some days, it could be a grand old classic. Other days, maybe a muscle car, even a military vehicle. Some jobs are quick fixes. Others are full-blown restorations. And on occasion, million-dollar recreations. My only rule, perfection. And that's the kind of thing that we do at the Guild Garage. We've been pretty lucky at the Guild to have had some magnificent cars that have been represented at Concourse events around the world. And I have another car that I think, well, is in the running to be a top contender. The Evil Clown. If we can make this car safe enough to drive, well, I have an idea. At Pebble Beach, there is a counter event called the Concours de Le Mans. Not Le Mans the city, lemons the fruit. It's all about having just wacky vehicles, and it would be an awful lot of fun to do 2,000 miles in this thing. You know, when I came up with this concept, it was to basically empty some of my shelves of lots and lots of excess parts that I'd accumulated over the years. Nothing on this car is standard, so when we don't have a bit to fit, well, then we've got to make it. Poor Billy, he's sort of stuck with taking what's in here and translating it into steel. Lots of measuring and adjustments and everything. Fortunately, things are rolling along pretty well because one of the big rat rod magazines wants to come in and do an article on it. You know how I don't like giving you deadlines?
Yeah.
Well, we got a deadline. Because there's a journalist coming in from one of the rat rod magazines.
Okay.
And that's next Wednesday. So.
Okay.
So you got 3 days.
Yes.
Today I have a very good client coming in who's been with us for the last couple of years. He brought his 1965 AMC Rambler Marlin into us so that we could do some engine work.
This beautiful 1965 Marlin came out right at the beginning of the muscle car era. It was one of those ones that really caught your eye, and the fact that not many were really made. You know, first year of manufacture was just over 10,000 cars made.
All this time, he really hasn't been able to enjoy the one feature in this car that separates it from the other cars of the era. And he's brought it into us so that we can help make his Marlin experience a little more genuine. Hey, Rob.
Thomas, how are you?
Not
Hey,
bad.
Craig. Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
So, what are we going to do this time around?
The Overdrive System is not working, and we thought we'd take a look and try to get that, figure it out. I've never really understood how it works, you know.
You don't see too many of them with the dual shift, right?
It's kind of a rare beast. It's a
Cool
weird
option, but it's definitely weird.
The setup for this car was meant to be, you know, one of the real first 5 speeds. It was a 2-stick transmission.
It's a neat system. It's very cool because when it's set up and working properly, you can actually use an overdrive in second and an overdrive in third. So that actually gives you 5 speeds, and you know you can take it in and out of overdrive. It's a lot more shifting, but it's a really, really cool system. Really innovative.
Obviously, it worked when it was sold, you know, in 1965, but over the years, it's just been run down and nobody's ever fixed it. I don't think anyone ever really understood how it works because it's so rare. It's never worked since day one. The second shift, this overdrive shift, has never worked. As you can see, it's just, you know, flopping in the wind here. I knew David here at the Guild, his men would fix this thing up and we'll get it rolling. It's definitely a
Pretty proud of the fact that we have repeat clients here. And aside from the 65 Marlin, I have a 1965 Corvette C2 convertible that came in from a good client of ours, and he was complaining of some overheating issues. It's pretty common on these old Corvettes because there isn't a whole lot of airflow coming through the nose. So I'm having Ron take a look at it so that he can see what he can do.
On the highway, he said it's okay. It runs at 180 degrees, stays right there. But once he gets in traffic, the temperature gauge starts creeping up to over 200 to 210 degrees, which it'll getting up there. It looks like the radiator's new. It looks like everything's actually new on the car, in good shape. What we're doing is just going to upgrade the fan to a larger fan and a newer clutch fan.
The old clutch style fans are the way of the dodo at this point in time. When the engine is at lower RPMs, the clutch engages and it pulls through the radiator, and then when it's at higher RPMs when you're driving and it's expected that the car is actually going to be at speed, it doesn't have to work as hard. So the clutch is in effect what controls that.
Well, we have this coil on the front here, and it's sensitive to heat. So as everything gets hotter, that coil gets bigger, and it's going to wind that centerpiece here, which sort of locks the clutch up inside. You can see here now I can turn this quite easily. So if this were to get hot on this side, this will actually lock right up, so it's direct in turning the fan. So on the highway, when you really don't need the fan eating horsepower up, it's going to be freewheeling. And then when you get into city traffic and it starts to get hot, well, this fan's going to lock up and actually then start to moving the air through the radiator like it needs to be. Now we can see there's quite a bit of difference between the two fans. You know, this one only has 5 blades. This one has 7. The clutch itself is a much bigger and heavy duty diameter. The blades, I think we're going like from 17 to 21 inch. This was a 21. So it should move more air, keep the car running cooler.
Hey, Billy.
Hi.
Well, these turned out fairly nice. So Billy's got the 2 front fenders almost done, nice and stable.
On there.
I wonder how much of this they're going to do when it's moving.
They'll probably shake, but they're not going to touch anything.
Yeah. This has got a bit more wobble in it, eh?
Is it?
Yeah, just a shade, but
The fact that they're a little shaky, well, that's probably only to be expected. Sort of goes with the rest of the car, doesn't it?
you know what? That may be a reason not to put lights in it.
Yeah,
That would
fuzzy
be-
lights
yeah.
everywhere.
Although it might be cool too. The one thing that I would sort of like to experiment with is maybe putting a light inside them and seeing what happens. But aside from that, that's and a couple of small alterations at this point, they're good. Okay, so it's getting there. These are just sort of the finishing touches.
Yeah.
Now we got to tackle the back fenders, and I really want the concept to be sort of like a bat wing coming across the back of the car. Yeah.
Started roughing it out.
How are you going to fix this on? Put a lip in here and bolt it through? I think it's probably the best way.
You want it bolted in there?
Yeah, I was
okay.
thinking of welding it, but I thought, well, then we're stuck with it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to do too much finishing here. I want you to just add sort of the wing. Bring that in
Yep.
to the bottom of the car. I like that leading edge. That's nice. That's gonna.
Yeah, just going to bring it right up to this line.
That's good. Just have to know when to stop working on it.
Well, you keep coming up with all these ideas.
Okay, it's getting hot.
Seized solid, doesn't move at all. We got the 65 Marlin in up on the hoist, and we're going to take out the shifter cable. One end of it was disconnected already, and it looks like the reason for that is it was seized. So we're gonna take it out and prove that it's seized and replace it so that he has the overdrive. Because with this 2-stick transmission, you have a cable that runs the overdrive and shifter rods that run your first, second, and third. So we're gonna take it out, see what it looks like. This is our old one, and it's seized solid. This one shifts nice and easy. And it's even got an American Motors tag on it. So it's like a new old stock or one that was used very, very gingerly. So we're going to mount it on there and get this overdrive shifter working. Now for the fun part.
When you think of the 1965 Rambler Marlin, you're probably going to think of the double shift feature that it has. But there was some things that were just spectacular in its design. The elongated fastback was actually something that wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye. At that time, Mustangs were notchbacks, and it was something that was really weird and out of place. It ended up becoming the inspiration for a lot of the fastback designs that you saw in the later 60s.
All right. So the shift cable is in, and the mount's tight. Everything else looks good up in there. We can put it down and check the shifter.
Let's see how the shifter feels now. Oh yeah, definitely a good feel to it. When it came in, this was just flopping back and forth. So that's a good feel for out. Good solid feel to shift in. So that should be good. So let's
pretty much ready to take it on the road and see how it shifts.
I don't like deadlines, but they got one because we have a Rat Rod magazine coming in to do a review of the car, and I'd like to have it ready when they get here.
I'm really hoping they can pull this off in time.
I'm just going through all the systems, tire pressures, fluid levels, testing the lights, the operation of the light signals, all the basics just to make sure it's ready to start up and go.
So it turns out Rat Rod Magazine's not sending some flunky to do the article on the Rat Rod. They're sending their senior writer and managing editor. That's pretty exciting. I just can't believe that they're taking this car so seriously, because really nobody here has.
The C2 Corvette is really something that was innovative, and it was the new design. And out of all of the designs for the Corvette, the C2 is definitely my favorite. It's obviously one of Ron's favorites too, because he could have tested the overheating problem in the parking lot, but he's decided that he's gonna take it out on such a nice day to see if he can find some traffic.
Yeah, now of course there's no traffic when we really need it, so I guess we'll just pull over and let it idle and see how it heats up. Okay, it's getting hot. Well, after shutting it off and letting it sit for a few minutes and firing it back up, the temperature gauge went above that 3/4 mark. Well, the Corvette is running a little hot in traffic. It's creeping up around 230 degrees. We replaced the fan with a bigger, larger 21-inch 7-blade fan. It helped a little bit, but not perfect. So I want to try to get that temperature down more. So what we're going to do is remove the old thermostat and install a new high-flow, high-performance thermostat. So we'll see. So now I have to just fill the coolant system back up to full and to watch the temperature gauges to actually see what temp it's running at. I've got the engine running. I've got the car on fast idle, so it just warms up quicker. It's loud, yeah, but that's how they came from the factory like that. Well, we've had the engine running now for about a half an hour. It looks pretty good. Temperature gauge is staying below 180.
The overheating problem has been solved by the addition of the new thermostat and the 7-blade fan, and it's running just perfect.
An actual Duesenberg?
An actual Duesenberg backup light, yeah.
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Ooh, I touched the Duesenberg.
Rick Loxton, who's the managing editor of Rat Rod magazine, is visiting us from Minneapolis, and well, he wants to see the evil clown. And this should be interesting.
Dave builds these magnificent vehicles that you'll see at places like Pebble Beach and other Concourse type events all over the world. And I'm just trying to get my mind around that, how a guy that builds these multi-million-dollar cars is going to build a rat rod.
That's pretty much cleaned out about a third of my parts shelves.
My first impression of seeing the car drive into the back lot at the Guild here was, wow.
So, here she is. I'll walk you around the bits and pieces we've got on this thing.
There you go.
You got the keys? Better turn her off. That's the keys. Oh, perfect. So when you're sitting inside listening to the radio, you need a stick to turn the car off. You know, these are a work in progress. I mean, I'm not done yet.
You know they're never done?
No. The point of something like this is to give somebody lots to look at. Like, you know, I had the Vampire plates, which I've had for years, and I came down and, you know, the guys had made these beautiful bat wings to go on the front and back, and, you know, like little things like that. These are trip lights off of these were actually off of a Packard.
Oh, okay.
You know, and they're, you know, pretty expensive item. Just a 1953 Packard engine.
Great motor. How does a Packard engine just sit on the shelf for that long without being used?
This was a McLaughlin Buick.
Wow.
This is the backup light from a Duesenberg, and I won't tell you how much it's worth. But you don't want
An actual Duesenberg?
An actual Duesenberg backup light, yeah.
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Ooh, I touched the Duesenberg.
Its most redeeming attribute is the fact that I know where all my expensive parts are. This was something I just thought would be fun to do.
It's got double front wheels on it for crying out loud. I've never seen that before, and I've been doing this for years.
One is firmly attached to the brake, the other one is freewheeling, but they give lots of support. Now, I use these because I sort of want that dragster look, because I figured this is a long car. Of course, they're not street legal. So what we're going to do now is replace these with fairly tough motorcycle tire that'll fit in the same concept. We've built it now that, believe it or not, it passes safety.
Really?
Yeah. So, which was a bit of a challenge. You know, windshield was an issue, but we got those now.
Yeah. What's that steering wheel from? That's very cool.
That's off a Viking boat from about 1956.
To me, that's one of the coolest parts of it, is just that it's got the gold flake, it's got that 50s look to it. That's what makes his a little bit more unique, in that he's got some high-end parts in there, parts from Cords and Duesenbergs and Packards, and just vehicles that not everyone has access to.
It is, in effect, worth far more as parts than it is as a whole.
And you know, this is a 1920s hood ornament. It was an aftermarket hood ornament. You can buy it. And normally he would be like that, but we removed some fingers.
Very strategically, I see.
So the trunk, you can hold a lot in the trunk.
A lot being very relative.
Yeah, the gas tank.
Yes.
But it's chained down, so it won't go anywhere. I had to put locks in. You know, these seats were out of a World War II bomber, an A-26 Invader I used to own.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're pretty cool.
Because you hear guys using bomber-type seats, but you have bomber seats.
Yeah, which you can see there's a run-over rat. You know, the alarm clock was my wife's. I got in trouble for using her alarm clock.
I was going to ask how that went over.
Yeah. Barry Bolton, one of our painters, did the artwork on it. You know, I said, well, I'd sort of like to have the engine like a piece of jewelry, but his interpretation was like that. You know, and he did this sort of girly picture on the side, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, the look on that rat's face.
Yeah. I think I popped it into neutral.
Whoa, big bump.
She's a big girl.
Yeah.
And it looks great going down the road, coming, going.
Well, this morning we're getting ready to show the owner of the 1965 Marlin that the shifter's working. It's ready to go. We're ready to go for a test drive with them. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Ready for the road test? I got the Marlin outside, ready to go.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making.
I'll drive first, and then we can switch up. All right, there we go. We're in third gear now, and we'll bring it up. See that? So it shifted, you know, drops it right down.
That RPM down.
And he feels the revolutions change. He feels the overdrive connect. Now you're gonna find that first gear is a lot shorter. When you release, you know, the clutch and you instantly take off. There's no, you know, there's not a whole lot of feather in the clutch or riding it at all.
Yeah.
I could tell he was antsy. He wanted to get in the driver's seat and drive it. All right, so we'll stop here, and we should be good to switch it over.
Switcheroo.
Yeah.
It's not really odd that Robin needs to have a little bit of instruction in this area. The dual shift feature in the Marlin is something that was kind of revolutionary at the time, and it was really difficult to understand even back when it was new.
Hold on to your seat.
I'm in.
All right.
He got onto it great. You know, he was really happy with the way it shifted into overdrive and the way it downshifted.
When you're in second or third gear, you can put the clutch in, and then you can drop the overdrive shift down. So we would just take that baby and drop that down like that.
Yeah, and you feel that everything drop down.
It kind of gives you another gear, if you want to call it that. So you can use it either in second overdrive or third overdrive, and that gives it a more freewheeling approach. Before, you always felt like the car was not getting out of gear, but now you can drop it into overdrive, and the engine actually drops in RPMs, so the engine's not straining itself. Nice, very smooth. Thanks to the Guild, we got it finally working. It's just like, wow, it's just fantastic, you know?
I was totally surprised by Rick from Rat Rod Magazine's reaction to this car.
He's pretty enthusiastic about it. He looked at it and he sort of gets it.
What really caught my eye with the vehicle is just its proportions. It's a large car. It's bigger than most rat rods I've seen. You start with a 20s era body, and they're pretty small cars in most cases. This one's big, and it's out of necessity. You've got the big, wide Mickey Thompsons in the back, and then you've got the double wheels up in the front there. You've got a Packard straight 8 in the front. So to try to balance that whole build is tough to do. And when I saw it roll by, it's like, wow, it's big, but it works.
He really appreciated the fine detail, and he really appreciated the jokes that are incorporated into the car, which is purposeful and the fun part.
It just sits right, and it looks right, and it's proportioned right. And that's very hard to do with a big vehicle.
It's hard when somebody's waxing enthusiastic about something that you've created, but you know, honestly, I was pleased. I mean, I really didn't expect that kind of reaction.
She's a big girl.
Yeah.
Dave gets it. And it's a common theme amongst people who do these high-end Concours restorations. Everything has to be so exact all the time. There's no margin for error. Yet with a rat rod, you can just take that hat off, take a deep breath, and go, I can create now. I'm not held to any standards. I'm going to do what I like, how I like it, and forget everyone else.
I mean, here's a guy who looks at rat rods all the time. I think he'd look at it and go, yeah, well, nice try. Stick to restoration.